Hey guys, so I've just been looking around at like different videos on YouTube classified as ProAna, and there's a couple things that I think need to be understood that have been lost. First of all, this was never meant to be a movement which garnered massive mainstream attention. It was never intended for that, in my personal perception. Originally, the founders of the ProAna movement were individuals suffering with long-term intractable chronic illnesses like anorexia nervosa, who created all of these famous works like the ProAna Psalm, Creed, Letter from Anna, all of that. I believe that these were alliterations, these were creative expressions, these were attempts to articulate the psyche, the mindset, the pathological thought processes. I don't think that it was ever intended to recruit people to pathology. This used to be a very underground movement wherein if you did not have an eating disorder, probably were not going to come across this material. A lot has changed, a lot, since those initial days. Unfortunately, today we are seeing an influx of very young individuals who are basically coveting eating disorders, and there's a lot of ProAna sites that are disease mongering, are peddling pathology, are encouraging people to stay sick, to get sick, to embrace this aberrant way of living. And I have a problem with that, and I think the onus is upon owners and administrators of these websites to reevaluate your mission, purpose, intent, intended audience, because we can't rewind the clock. We can't take back the widespread media attention. We can't undo the damage, whether it was intentional or not. There is damage happening, and I fully acknowledge that and take personal responsibility to do something about it. So, most of you know I own and administrate a website called Project Shapeshift, and this site has been around since the dawn of the ProAna movement. Our foundress authored Anna's Underground Grotto, which is a highly infamous now, I guess, compilation of intellectual explorations of the ProAna journey, embracing ascetic vision and really trying to be, I would say that my perspective is that our foundress was trying to assert some autonomy given the realities of living with a disorder like anorexia nervosa. I think her works to reject the victim mentality, to embrace one's own galvanized will and intent, to consider approaching the journey from a volitional standpoint, to reject the notion of being helpless. I think these were the motivations, and unfortunately the ultimate fuel for controversy, because if you don't have an eating disorder, and you review material like this, it seems pretty macabre and pretty threatening and disturbing, and even to individuals suffering from eating disorders. If you aren't in the right frame of mind about it, things like this can be really distressing. And I've kind of watched with horror over the years what has happened with the widespread media attention which began in 2001. There have been search engines shutting down these sites, which I'm against, and let me tell you why. On my site, the majority of the community have no outside support. This is their only lifeline to support. So taking this away is destroying the sanctuary, refuge, and lifeline to a vast majority of people who populate these sites. But this is a call to owners and administrators to wise up and understand, whether you agree or not, that this is a very controversial issue. I think the onus of responsibility falls upon us to acknowledge and address the phenomenon of people thinking that eating disorders are cool or chic or a good idea or whatever. You know, our sites are being populated by a great deal of people who are not already sick and are taking this in a very bad context. So this is an appeal. If you own a ProAna website, if you believe in this ideology, if you subscribe to this approach to the journey, own reality and address it on your website. I just updated our main site page to reflect this. My site is not about promoting or encouraging illness. We are about optimal wellness, which is a concept that I have developed over my years and my experience walking on this path, and embracing the realities of the positive aspects of the journey while trying to minimize and do away with the pathological, dangerous, and otherwise negative facets of the journey. So yeah, my mission really is to reach people who need a different approach. We have a lot of problems in the typical approach to recovery. I don't think that recovery is entirely possible. This is evident in research, in reading memoirs of people who have suffered. Even the happy endings still have this caveat of the voice never goes away, the presence never goes away, it will be with you for life. So if we acknowledge and accept that, rather than expecting people in recovery to reject every facet of their illness, to reject every behavior, every thought, I don't think it's possible, and I think this sets people up to fail. Statistics would reflect that. Perfect recovery, even by clinical standards, is a 75% failure rate for adults with chronic anorexia nervosa. This is indicative of a problem. So, additionally, treatment isn't always available, it's not necessarily accessible. The admission criteria are extremely stringent, and individuals basically have to be extremely sick for an extremely long period of time before they are even eligible for the more intensive forms of intervention treatment. This is a problem because the longer you're sick, the more the disease becomes insinuated in your psyche, and the less likely you are to ever fully recover. Second, duration of therapy. Even if you are admitted, insurance companies, especially in the US, will not pay for lengthy enough treatment to have any significant impact. And it's a fact that refeeding is not a cure. We may outwardly look healed, but the psychopathology The thoughts, the experience, the feelings remain. And this is immutable. We have to address that. Third, again, as I mentioned, current treatment modalities are largely ineffective. So we need to address these issues, and my personal success in managing my own condition is embracing my optimal wellness philosophy, which I define as living with rather than for anorexia, and also finding a workable balance between illness and perfect health. So embracing the positive tenets of the journey while minimizing the detrimental consequences. So that's my mission, and that's what we advocate on Project Shapeshift. We have a recovery forum. We are in absolute support of anybody who wants to try recovery. If anybody recovers, we celebrate that. We do not condemn it. There are no tips and tricks. There is no disease promotion. You will not find how to become anorexic tips on my site. What you will find are individuals living with restrictive eating disorders who desperately need support in a non-traditional fashion. One issue I haven't addressed are recovery sites. Recovery sites, I think the intent is good, but there are some problems with them. The most well-known site is somethingfishy.org. This site has some issues. Number one, it's extremely alienating and uncomfortable for people who are suffering because they are militantly pro-recovery and adamantly intolerant of any discussion of the actual ED experience, triggering sequelae, different aspects of the phenomenon of living with anorexia and related restrictive EDs. And this is silencing and alienating to a great deal of people who are suffering. Additionally, one of the most useful facets of any medicalized community on the internet, or support group on the internet for sufferers, are journaling, sharing your day-to-day experience, connecting with like-minded individuals, and exploring your journey and your situation. This is prohibited on Something Fishy. So I think recovery sites leave a lot to be desired, and this opens a bridging niche for ProAna. But I think it's time for ProAna to become proactive, to become Ana accepting, to furthering a way to approach the journey from a realistic and positive perspective. So that's my piece on all of that. I just wanted to get this all out there. Be well, precious ones. That is my prayer for each of you. Bye.